All right, good morning. So we're working on Allie.Chat. What we're going to be fixing today is our client applications. So we have a link between our SQL Server application users and our identity server applications. And then we're allowing users to register applications on the identity server, and then they will not be visible from the public URL. One of the things that we have, though, is a problem with the UI. So we're going to take a look at what's going on here. Give it just a second here, because sometimes it hiccups on my identity server. And it should be loaded now. It almost is. There it is. We've received our token. And we will be logged in. So now let's take a look at dev client applications. I currently have 2 client applications available, and my authorization types are not here. So let's start here. If I look at my Allie.Chat web API app underneath underneath my hub, I should have something in here called get client applications. Right here. And this is returning a number of DTOs, which is what I thought it was going to. And these DTOs probably don't have, it does have a number here of auth types, so it's just not being populated. So if I look at where I'm reading this, this is creating my new client type of application, and then this is selecting my grant types. So the only reason why this is not working is it looks like allowed grant types here is not populating. So we'll try it again. Something's going on with my sound. It's my cable. Okay, there we go. All right. So now we're going to take a look at my application here. And this thing has a allowed grant types of implicit. Called implicit. And then down here, we're going to select my grant type and then turn it into an array. So when I look at this, auth types here is implicit. So that looks like that should be working. So back in the front end, we're going to take a look at my clients class. And this thing should have a data source for my client application, which has a number of auth types. Okay, and that should be over here. We should have my client applications types here. And this is what looks wrong. So you have on here client application, which has a client application type. When I actually think this should be auth types. It's right here, app type to string. So let's go ahead and do an output when we retrieve these things and do a console.log here of my client applications. Okay, here it is. If I look here at client 1, client application type is implicit, and my auth types are implicit. So the difference is that client application type here is now a number, but what you're getting from the server is a string. Do you need this auth type? See, I'm almost thinking I don't need auth type. You're using it here in your client. But you could do this with a and that's okay. So what I want to change then is in my library file here, underneath my DTOs for client applications, here's your auth types. And here's client application type, which is currently set to a string. So we're going to change this to be like that, and then as a value, like that. Now, if I look at my enumerators, I don't think I have a client application type anymore. So I say we get rid of both of these. And then we're going to do the same thing on my view model here. And we can rebuild it. And I'm in debug mode, which is right. And so now I can open this up in Bash. And I'm going to increase the dependency version here to be 1.14. I'm going to do a NuGet pack. 1.14. And now I'm going to push it out. Like that. Just a second. There we go. And now this one has been pushed out. And so now we also want to go into here. And we're going to up this dependency version to 6. And then in my new spec, I can up my library. Oh, shoot. So your library is referenced in which projects? I believe it's in these ones, TCP, Web API, WebSocket, and not commands because it already is there. Yeah. Right. So in these, we need to up my dependency version here to be 1.1.4. And we're going to up this package to be 11. And then in the Web API, I need to up this one to be 4 and 8. And then in WebSocket, I need to move this one up to 8 and 4. Okay. And so now what I can do is look at my NuGet packages and push these things out as soon as that new one populates. And we can check that over here. Allie.Chat lib. So you can see it's indexing. And for the moment, what we can do is jump back into here and get rid of client application type. And then this, we're going to change to be a element.client application. It's going to be called Auth Types of 1. Not yet. So back in my web app, looks like it's closed out now. Here's your client application types, which is an internal. Now when I log in, sometimes it hiccups. Okay, there it is. So now when I look at my client applications, you can see that we have my authorization types here. Okay, so that's working correctly now. Back over in here, we can now update my packages. 1.14. 1.14, and then 1.14. And then I'm going to come in here and do a cd Allie.Chat.web API NuGet pack. And we're going to push out version 1.18. Okay. Now we're going to go back and do the TCP one. And push out this. NuGet chat TCP 1111. And then also our WebSocket one. And we'll push that one out. WebSocket 118. Okay. Over on our auth here, we need to up this one to be 8. And then also up our package to be 8. Okay. And the next one that we have to do is look at the commands. So this core one has a 1.1.8 in it now. And then the core auth is using commands core. So we'll worry about this one in here in just a minute. And finally, I can go down to here, where we're going to monitor for when this new one goes up. And it's not up yet, so we can jump back over here. Okay, so we've got now our authorization types. So if I was to check this out, when it loads this, it's not assigning the auth type. So this one we're going to say is my okay, look. So I have to go work in the global service for a moment. So you had them that way so that they were friendly with the names. So if I was to create a native app, like this, this says authorization code, so this is actually bad. It looks like I do want to leave that field. So in here, I can probably get rid of in my client applications, I can probably get rid of my auth types. Like that. won't know what this is because this is in my other enums. So let's move it out of here. And add this to here. And for this, we're going to say the available client application types implicit flow authorization. This is going to be authorization code flow authorization. This one's going to be resource owner password flow authorization. And this one will be native app / PKCE authorization code flow authorization. Like that. And now we need to update that again because that was not done right before. So let's do this again. And I'm going to change this to be a 5 now. And I'll do a cd Allie.Chat.lib NuGet pack and push this one out. Okay, and then when this gets done, we can do these ones, which is 12 now, right? And I can double check this here. TCP is at 12 and 5. The WebSocket was at 8, 9, and that's a 5. And then TCP is at 13, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, it's at 12. And then our web API is at 9. So that's all done. And we can debug that. And then we can start looking at our NuGet packages here for this one. And we need to wait for this to update. So back over here, on my client application, I want to have a client application type, which is a number, and a client application type value, which is a string. And now we don't have any auth types. So when I look at this, that looks fine. We're going to do a console.log on my auth type selected and try it again. Now it says that it's undefined. So when I look at my client application type, let's try that. Now it said native PKCE. So it's being passed as a string instead of a number. Which means that I can just do this. And that should resolve it. Now back over here, where I was looking at clients.html, this we want to be client application type value. Okay, back over in our public libraries, we look. Come on. Hey, there's the stockbroker lookalike. How's the game going? It says keeping track of this account. Which game are you talking about? There is no turning back. That game is done. It's published out on Steam and then also on Android. So we'll update this one. Update this one. And then update this one. And now what I want to do is go through these three, and we'll do a Allie.Chat.tcp and do a NuGet pack, and then push this one out. Here, let me send you the link. Yeah, I'm going to start another one, I think, later this week. Oh, I don't have it on the site. I need to update the site. So let me go ahead and add that here as update. There is no turning back. Site to reflect both purchase options. So that one's only going to show you on Steam, and then on Google, you should be able to find it here. Here. Okay. So we've done it on all three of these, so we're ready to pack this and push it out. So this one is Allie.Chat.tcp 1.1.12. Okay, the next one here is cd Allie.Chat.web API, and we'll do a NuGet pack on that. And push this one out, which is a web API 1.1.9. And then the next one is this WebSocket. And that one's going to be pushed out to 1.1.9. Okay, when I look at the Web API, this should be at 1.1.9 now. And our Web API is currently at what is it, 1.1.7? So that looks good. And then if I look up here, commands is my next one, which is dependent on TCP, TCP auth, WebSocket, and WebSocket auth. So these need to get done first. So if I look at core, that's dependent on Web API. So we're waiting on this one. So here's our Web API 9, but I think we're at, 8, but I think we're at 9 now. We are. The trailer is not working. How's that? Just spins on my end. It's done through YouTube. It shouldn't. There it is, though. Trailer for There Is No Turning Back. Boom. Okay. Let's go check this now. We want this to be at 9. It's not there yet. So when I look back at this underneath client applications, okay, it's currently not kicking back, which is what we want. And then in here, this doesn't have the value yet because we're still waiting on it. So give it another second here. 1.9. Okay, so this is for auth. Okay, so we can rebuild this one. And I can push this out. Okay, and then we're going to push this out auth 1.1.8. Okay, and then also on commands, if I look at this one, we're at 1.0.3. That's right. And we're going to update this one to be 9. And then our core here will be updated to 9. Or NuGet spec, I mean. And we'll build this now. And now I want to go back to cd Allie.Chat.commands, cd Allie.Chat.commands.core, and do a NuGet pack. And I'm going to push this one out. Okay. And so that means that here, this is now going to be using 1.0.3 and 1.1.9. And we'll need to up this one by 1. And I guess because this one is auth, it's only 1.1.8. And then we also have this TCP here, which we're waiting on my core package here to be 1.0.3. And my TCP is now at 1.1.12. Okay, the next one here is this WebSocket one, which is moved up to 3. And then its new spec, the NuGet package for WebSocket is at 1.1.9 and 1.0.3. Okay, so now the next thing that we want to do is look at my commands core auth. And we can see that this auth is now moved up to 1.1.8, which is right. And we're still waiting for core to update to 1.0.3. And then my core auth is at 1.0.2, which is probably right. And it is. So almost done here. So this should be fine. This should be loading it. And now inside of my client, you have this auth type selected, which loads the appropriate form. So ours was native PKCE, which is here. And you are generating your scope data. There it is, 1.0.3. And I'll publish this one out. cd Allie.Chat .commands.core.auth NuGet pack. Okay, that one's done. That means that we have this TCP one and WebSocket one to do. And we're going to update that to 3. And this one to 12. And when I look at my new spec, it's 1.0.12, 1.0.3, and my commands are currently at, commands TCP are at 2. So this needs to be moved up to a 3. Okay, we're going to push this one out, cd Allie.Chat.commands.tcp, and do a NuGet pack. I'm going to push this one out. Allie.Chat commands TCP .1.03. Okay. And now we need to do the same for the WebSocket. And this one's at 3. And it should be at 3. And we need to update it, which is this one And then this one. .03 and 1.19. 1.19, 1.03. So we're done there. We can rebuild it and go into cd Allie.Chat.commands.WebSocket and do a NuGet pack. We'll push that one out. We're almost done here. .0.3. Okay, we have these two auth ones to do. So if I look at TCP auth, we're going to up it to be a 3. And my dependencies need to get updated to core auth hasn't updated yet, right? Not yet. And this one we want to update. And we're going to update my NuGet spec here to be 1.1.2 and 1.1.0.2. We need to up my version here to be 3. Which is right. And then we need to do the same on this auth WebSocket here. Which is now at 9. And the WebSocket auth is at what? 1.0.2? Yep. And on here, I want to change my new spec to be 1.1.9 and 1.0.2. Okay. So now that we got this one, I'm going to go to my NuGet here and update my core auth to 1.0.2. And then we can push this one out. cd Allie.Chat.commands.tcp.auth. NuGet pack. And then we'll push this one out. Allie.Chat commands core.auth TCP.auth 1.0.3. Okay, now we'll do it again here for the WebSocket one. Which will be in cd Allie.Chat.commands.WebSocket.auth. And we'll do a NuGet.pack. And then I'm going to push this one out. Only 2 more after this. Commands.WebSocket.auth 1.0.2. Okay, and now on our core module, we're going to look at this and update all of our packages, which we have the TCP one, our WebSocket one, and then our auth ones aren't done yet. And we're going to look at our new spec here and up these all by 1, 3, 3, 3, and 2. And we also need to up the version of this by 1. Yeah. And then we can prep this last one here, which is just going to be upping my First, we'll do the dependence, the 17 here. Which should just be 16. And then when I look at this, I can update my TCP package. My auth package. My WebSocket package. Okay, the last one is the commands package, which we haven't pushed out yet. So we're waiting for these two auth ones to fire. And if I look here, it's currently at 1.03. Almost done. Come on. Any moment. There it is. 1.03 and 1.03 here, or 1.02. Okay, and now that that's done, we can rebuild it and push that one out. Which is at 1.0.4. And then our last one here, (1.0.4). WebSocket is now at 9. API auth is at 8. And TCP is at 12. Okay, we can rebuild this. We only have one more here to finish up. So we'll watch this to see when it updates. And then in your app, we're going to update all of them where we can. Give it just a second to populate here. And we've got Web API socket, WebSocket, Web API auth, TCP, the lib, and that looks like it. So we'll do an update on those. And now we can continue working on our commands, or on our client applications. And if I look at what's installed here, let's go back over to the other one for a moment. Not yet. Everything looks good. PayPal.net end tier looks good. That looks all fine. If I were to open up my endtier.net, and I was to look at what you have installed here, everything's fine. And now when I rebuild this, I should be able to get rid of this one. Okay. And now in here, this is saying that it doesn't have auth types anymore. Like this. And then toString. And this one needs to be a value. And we can get rid of this. And let's leave my errors list up while we fix these. Same thing here. I don't even think you need allowed grant types now. Okay, this is going to be a app type, and then a client application type value is going to be your app type.toString. And then this one is client application type dot implicit dot toString. This one here is going to be native PKCE and a toString. Okay, and now this one, we can just switch directly on client application type. Okay, and so now when it goes again, we can check to see that my client applications are getting populated correctly. Okay, so we'll log in. We probably need to get it past the hiccup. Try it again. Okay, we'll log in. Let's get it past the hiccup. Oh, come on. And that's because my FreeNAS is overloaded at the moment. Pardon me. Okay, let this finish loading. Log in, try it again. Get it past the hiccup. Back over here, let's finish this task up where I'm updating my commands to 4. And then I'll rebuild it and go into Allie.Chat and do a NuGet pack. And then we'll push this one out. Okay. And now the only thing left to do is these two. So we'll just open these up for a moment. And then if I go into my client applications here, come on. Come on. I wonder why this isn't taking. Everything else is. Okay, it's failing because it's going to say object is not set to a reference. So let me check with this again. Oh, it's because you are no longer including the allowed grant types. There we go. So we can see that my authorization types are correct here. So in my client, your value that you're switching on is going to be Auth Code, implicit, native PKCE, or RO password, if I'm correct. So when we select one, you can see it loaded the page correctly, and it loaded the scopes correctly, and it loaded everything. So what I want to do is now I'm going to look at an individual one here. So when I look at an implicit one, I've got all these different properties on here. Scopes available. Here you have one called get scopes. I don't think you should do this until this dot loading equals false. So here you're generating your scope data, but you're also generating it when you're getting your scopes. Now, when you're requesting scopes here, you're not passing in anything. So this should be a behavior subject. It is. So you should be getting it when you do the this.request scopes. And this doesn't matter. Okay. Back over here, let's check these. TCP, we can up this to 16. WebSocket, we can up this to 16. We can rebuild everything. And then I can close this. And over on my public repo, I can commit this new one, and we're going to say modified Allie.Chat.lib and client application DTOs and push to NuGet. And we'll commit that out. And then here I want to add a tag onto this for version 1.1.16.0, and we'll add that tag. So now when I look at an implicit one, I don't want it to stop loading until, well, the scopes should already be populated now. Interesting. So auth types doesn't exist anymore. Like that. In this loading, we want to do this here. So let it reload. Now, it generated the scope data, but it didn't populate it. So scope selected got set here. Just a second. And here are the scopes. because otherwise you want to do this up here. You're going to say if this ID does not equal to null, or it does not equal to null, undefined, or it's greater than 0. So this is now an existing one. You want to do a generate scope data. And otherwise, you want to do another one, but you want to have all of them selected. So I don't see where you're setting the loading to false. Let's try it again. We'll make a new one called implicit, client implicit. Now it never loaded my scopes available here. So let's do a console.log of my scopes available. It got them twice. There, it generated it. So if I was to just remove this line here, and there, it already generated it. So that's fine. We don't need to have this second call down here. Now also, you want to have your else, you want to say this.allow tokens via browser equals true. There it is. All of your scopes are already set except for offline access. Why isn't it selecting that? So up here, we're going to do a console.log of my this.scopes available. So it says there's only 3. So somewhere it's getting this 4th one for offline access. Second. So if you're never generating your scope data, like this, it's still giving me offline access. Try it again. Remember, I did something special for that. Whoops. Good. So this time it never generated it. So if I did a console.log of my scopes available, you still bring it in offline access. So if I look at my backend, I should have something in here called request scopes. Let's take a look here. When we reload this, it says we have 3. But somehow it's giving me 4. And over here, Here, get scopes default. That's where this is coming from. And that's where offline access gets set. So what that means is up here, where you're getting your scopes available, I want to go ahead and get my get scopes default. And there we go. So if I was to add this as a test one, and I saved it, and I go back, and I go and look at it again, it is selecting all of my scopes. So that is working now. I don't see where I'm doing a console log. Right, so that's working better. Okay. Oh, it didn't set this allow access tokens via browser, did it? So when you're doing an update, interesting. So when I look back at my server now, you should have a update here. Here. Okay, you're going to save it again. And when I look at my request, we have my 4 scopes. I have allow offline access. So you don't have it here. This one needs to have on it a client implicit create request. Needs to have on it a allow access tokens via browser. Okay, that should do that. Okay, so now this time we're going to look at a different one. Wait, hold on. This didn't edit because when I look at my request, this is now an update. So when I look at this client application create request, when I look at this create request here, it's right here. If your client does not equal to null, then you want to do an update. And you want to return this. And this one is going to be this new request and a application user ID. Require consent, scopes, and your ID, which I don't think you have one at the moment. So if I go back over here and I look, ID is something you're passing in. And you're passing it here, which means that this one needs to have a new model in it called a client application implicit create update request, which needs to inherit from create request, but include a integer for the ID. And now what you can do is you can say, if my ID, my request.id does not equal to 0, then we're going to say this is an update, else it's going to be a create. And this is going to be a client application implicit view model. So this will be like this. And this is going to be client application equals await services identity server dot update client application with a new request, and then a application user dot ID. And then it needs to have the application user ID. Okay, let's try it again. And just to make sure, allow access token via browsers. And then in my DTOs for that client application, I need to have it. And then in my VMs, I need to have it. And then in my application itself, when you're doing this, we want to have a allow access tokens via browser equals request.allow access tokens via browser. And then we also want to have that in here. Allow access. So you're automatically setting this one to true for implicit flow. That's why it's not here. Okay, so that means that over in my front end, where you're doing this allow access tokens via browser, we can get rid of that. And then up here, we can get rid of it there. Here. Okay. And then on this one, we need to remove my allow access tokens via browser. Give it a little kick to get through here. We'll go ahead and do a login. There it is. Okay, this looks good. So when I go back here and I look at my implicit, there it all is. I do a require consent. I save it. Everything's saved. I drop profile. I save it again. I jump back. And it's working. Okay, so that one's done. So we need to rinse and repeat this for a client application Auth Code PKCE and RO password. Like that. So back here in my hub, we want to change this to be a update request. Update request and an update request. And so now when you do this, it's a if my request.id is equal to 0, then it's going to be a create. Otherwise, it's going to be an update. And in here, we want to say that this is a client application RO password VM. Call it client application. And in here, we're going to add this new request, which is going to be these fields. And your client secrets is going to be your request.client secrets. That's weird that one of them is fine and the other one is not. Okay. This next one here is for Auth Code. So we're going to have the client application Auth Code VM called client application. And if my request.id is equal to 0, otherwise we're going to do this update. And then we want to bring in these fields. And you also have client secrets and front channel logout URI. Okay, we have one more to do, which is this one. This is in my Web API models, Web Application PKCE. Same thing here. If my client, so we can just do a var client application equals, and now if my request.id is equal to 0, then you want to do this. Otherwise, you want to do the other one. And this is going to be update PKCE with this new request and an application user.id. We'll bring these in here. Looks good. Okay. Now that those are all done, if I look back here at my Auth Code, I don't need to request my scopes anymore. And I can use my client implicit as an example. Where are you using this? Here. Client application. We'll worry about that in a minute. Okay, you don't have those auth types anymore. If I look at this, interesting. Okay. You also want to say that your client application type value is your and we want to say that this is authorization code. And then here you're going to request it and then you're going to return. Otherwise, you're going to set it to not. Scopes received. I don't think you have to do anything with that except for this one. Okay. Okay. I don't think you have to do this. Do you? Hold on. Because your scopes selected are getting set here. So I think you can just flat remove that. Now these are wrong. Because now it's being held in that enumerator, right? Which means that these values should be implicit. This should be Auth Code. RO password and native PKCE. And that also means that in your client switch statement, like that, and like that. And that should be it. So let's go ahead and rebuild this. Failed to compile here on client PKCE, so I have to finish the other two. So if I look at PKCE, scopes received, we just do that, and then we need this in here. Right. I don't think that we need this request scopes in there now. When you're getting it, you can just set your scope selected. You don't need to request scopes there. Here, this request needs to be that, and then like that. And the last one is an RO password. Like that, like that. That one's fine. You don't need this on ng and init anymore, right? And then when you're down here, this goes away. This is RO password, and client application type value is RO password. Looks good. So if I run this again now, try it one more time there. And we go ahead and issue the login. Come on. Gotta kick through. Come on, kick through. And now when I look at my client apps, let's say I want to get rid of this Auth Code one. I create a new Auth Code. I'm going to call this Auth Code client. And I'll save it. It's probably going to tell me I need a secret. So let's add a secret here called secret. Says it couldn't be saved. So if I was to look at this, Auth Code, ID is 0, it says. So after you get this, you need to issue a new get. Like this. Oh, you are doing it. So I think it wasn't, we'll take another look. One thing I want to check is this logout. And that works. So the logout there is working correctly. So there's something wrong on the app that we'll fix. And we're going to check this out. And I'm going to go into Auth Code and see if it'll let me make a change here. That time it did. But if I was to delete this app, it's going to do a create with an ID. It's now going to spit my 11 back here in the front end. Which never sets your ID. Okay, so let's make sure we do that on all of these. Like that. And that should fix it. Okay, we need to kick it through. Okay, we're going to go to Dev. We'll try to edit this one by first deleting it. Okay, that worked. And now if I was to do a require consent on it and save it again, that time it worked. One thing I wanted to check was on my auth code. if I was to add a new scope, it doesn't automatically accept it. So let me go into here in my client, add scope. We're going to say true on all of these. Okay. Good, and then I save it, and it should save my scope. And it did. So that's looking pretty good. So the next one that I want to do is an RO password. RO password doesn't load scopes. Like that. Who is that? Hey, Wish Taker, how are you doing? Thank you for that subscription. Very much appreciate that. It's great to see you again. Appreciate the support. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Pop them in the chat. What's up, dude? Long time. I know it has been a little bit. Thank you for coming back. Privyet, Medershem, how are you? That has also been a bit. Okay, we look pretty good there. And the other one was PKCE. Which should be doing it now. Yeah, we moved. So this is my new office. Okay, so if I add one in here for RO password, it added my scopes. Interesting. So it got the scopes, but this time it seems like it's getting them from everywhere. So I don't really want it to do that. I need it to not be a behavior subject. I need it to be a... So underneath my services for HTTP for WebHub, where I have my scopes received, we're going to change this to be a subject. Which means that, and for each one of these, When you get scopes, what are you getting? You're adding all of the different scopes that you can add. So that is right. Like that. That is right. Glad to see you're still working with Angular. I've been loving it. Yeah, Angular is pretty nice. I'm just about done with this app, which is great. Probably want that to open in a new window. Yeah, so things are working, which is nice. So if I look at my API resources, this is good. It does automatically create my scopes, but it doesn't look right. So if I look at my front end here, underneath API resource, when you're creating one, right? But then also where you're doing your generate initial scope data, you just want to set that to be true. Okay, one thing I wanted to do is Angular CLI open in new window. So over here on my template, when you have your button here for go to web documentation, you're opening this here like that. You want to do this as a window.open to this URL. Better. Okay. Your developer documentation, you want to say go to developer documentation, and it's a window.open this.global service dot landing page plus the documentation, or is it just called docs? We can test this by logging out. don't know why it logged me back in. It should have taken me back to that main page. There. Developer documentation. Yeah, that's right. Now, one thing that we wanted to do was change one of my images. Doesn't seem to be taking me there. Okay. Looks good. Okay, so one of our images that I want to change is in here. This one. And we're going to take this picture, and I want to look at what my image is that I've used for the background here. So if I look at this image that I'm using for my background, it's actually pulling straight from the web app. I'm not using the link to yeah, see? So I really need to switch these to be used somewhere else. So let's go ahead and open this. And then this one as well. Okay. When I look at my size of this one, it is 192 by 1080 and 70. So this will be 192 by 1080. Okay. And so then for this one, we're going to select from here and go all the way up to 1080. And do a crop. And then save it as a PNG. I'm going to call this my background. And then we're going to go to the URL called tinypng. And we're going to upload this one. Come on. Now I think I did the wrong image because I wanted this one. Okay, and we'll download it. In this one, we're going to say background team. And I'm going to just bring this one into my web app for a temporary. It didn't resize it very much. It's still very large. So now what I want to do is go into my Amazon Web Services login here. And we're going to go to my S3. And in here, I should have a Pixel Horror Studios Allie.Chat. And here are my banners. So I'm going to upload here my background team. Actually, let's go ahead and get rid of all of these. Okay, let it upload those. And we want to use this background team here. And now in here, when I'm doing my view for my contact, for example, we're using BG image. We're going to use BG image team. And now we're going to go into the CSS and change my BG image team. To be this one. And I also believe that I don't want this to be fill. Okay, so it didn't load the picture here. So instead, we're going to do just images background team.png and try it again. That time it worked. And that time it worked. So we want to have the same thing in the About page. You can see that it doesn't work right if it gets too small, so we do need to fix it in a couple of places. Terms of service, that looks good. Privacy policy, that looks good. So if I looked here at my documentation, you can see that it's not going all the way to the bottom no matter what. So your HTML is the right size, your body is the right size, but your background image is not. So back in the CSS, I'm going to say my height is 100%. Now, the problem here is that see, and now it's only being 100% of the actual screen, so I want to have it as a position static, right? Now it's still scrolling at bottom. So I want to have something here which is CSS background image entire full screen. So this is the one that I was working with here. So if I change this to be fixed, that's not right. Actually, that's closer. So you want to do a left of 50% and a width of 100%. And that looks right. Now it's not allowing me to scroll. Background size cover. If you get rid of the color here, that wasn't what we wanted. Width, height, position is absolute. You're still getting that white at the bottom. And so now if you look at this for your content, So this is telling me to put the image itself alone. So back over here, we'll try this. And then in your body content, let's get rid of this. And then in your body content, we'll do this again. That really didn't like it. Overflow should be hidden. Now it's allowing me to scroll, but it's cutting things off. Well, that's almost it. No. Nothing good about this. Huh. Do you have like a background color which you can have as transparent? Interesting. So now it's totally broken. Gotta love CSS. And do you see where it is, the CSS? I don't see it, so we'll try it again here. The About page is really messed up. That's okay, we'll fix those. There, that's working better. Okay. About is messed up. Interesting. There we go. So this is let me pop this out. So if your body here is fill, can you just have you want to say that your body here has a background color that's transparent. That didn't do it. See, but your background image team.fill is not filling the screen. But that is, and not now. Okay, so there it is. If we go on to body and I remove the fill, so what if you just did on body a style equals a height of 100%? Now it's still doing it. It says that your body and your HTML need to be at 100%, which is what you have here. Style equals a height of 100%. So in my CSS, fill does a lot more stuff than this. Fill window. And we'll just say that this is a height of 100%. I put this on the wrong one. Okay. Still not doing it. So we're going to say full page background image CSS no white on bottom. Background size cover. That didn't work. So they're actually putting this whole thing on the HTML tag. So let me go to here and remove this, and then put this on my layout. Try it again. Okay. There. That's how you do it. So it doesn't matter about the body tag. It's on the HTML tag. Okay. Okay. That's right. And now here on my home, it's putting it at the wrong height. So if I look at this one, This is my body content container. Whoops. Try that. What just happened? And if I look here at my home, I don't see where you're using body content container. Hold on. Here. That's not right. When you do this as a div class equals body content, so let me jump back over here then, and I'm going to look at my app, and I want to get rid of my about, contact, index, privacy, terms of service, layout, site min. And I'll discard these changes. And there we go. And so if I look then at my layout, you wanted to add that to your HTML, right? Tag. But you want to be able to change it out. So let's see here. Let me change one thing. But I am actually out of time for the day. So I'll be back again at 5 p.m. Thanks for staying with me today. If you have any questions, make sure you check us out at our Discord, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. Also, I put all these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. Appreciate you guys staying with me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in just a few hours. Alrighty. Bye, guys.